under section 1 of IGST Act 2017, you're going to know about extent and commencement with respect to GST from 2017. The place of supply of services is in India, and if any outside person supplying the services to India, then it is also called supply of services, that is import of services. Export of goods is nothing but exporting the goods, any product from India to other country. Hello everyone, I'm Arun Kumar, lecturer in Department of Commerce and Management, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. Dear students, welcome to this new session on unit number 4, session 1, that is the Integrated Goods and Services Tax Act 2017. Yes, the unit name itself, the Integrated Goods and Services Tax Act 2017. So in this unit, dear students, we are going to learn about what and all the concepts are included under IGST Act 2017, that is Integrated Goods and Services Act 2017. So in this particular act, that is IGST Act 2017, we have different sections and we have different scenarios which comes under different sections. So now if you look into section 1, in section 1, they all explained about extent and commencement. Yes, under section 1 of IGST Act 2017, you're going to know about extent and commencement with respect to GST from 2017. So what that section says about extent and commencement? So the section says this act may be called the Integrated Goods Services Tax Act 2017. Yes, so section 1 of IGST Act, first it explains about this particular act is called IGST Act 2017, that is Integrated Goods and Services Tax Act 2017, and it shall extend to the whole of India except the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Yes, the IGST Act is applicable to the whole country except Jammu and Kashmir. So the section 1 says about it is a IGST Act 2017 and it is applicable to the whole India except Jammu and Kashmir. Next, it shall come into force on such date 1 as the central government may, by notification, the official gazetted appoint. Yes, it came into force from when the central government approved for the act. Next, provided that different dates may be appointed for different provisions of this act, and any reference in any such provision to the commencement of this act shall be constructed as a reference to the coming into force of that provision. Yes, so the different provisions are approved on different dates, and all the provisions which are approved on different dates are all applicable to the whole country except the Jammu and Kashmir. So section 1 says about how this IGST Act commenced, when it is commenced, and to which boundary it is applicable, and it also says about the provisions under IGST Act. Section 2, it explains about export of goods. So what is this export of goods? Export of goods with its grammatical variants and cognate expressions means taking the goods out of India to a place outside India. Yes, export of goods is nothing but selling the goods from India to other country. For example, exporting of machinery. For example, we manufactured a machinery in India and we are selling that machinery to USA, that is to America. So you are selling a machinery to America. That transaction is called what? Export. So that is called export of goods, and it is explained under section 2 of IGST Act 2017. And also section 2 explains about export of services. So yes, export of goods is nothing but exporting the goods, any product from India to other country. Now what is this export of services? So export of services means the supply of any services, when the supplier of service is located in India. Yes, supply of any services when the supplier of service located in India, that is also called export of services. Or the recipient of services is located outside India. Yes, if the receiver of the service is located outside India, if he is located in any other country, that is called export of services, or the place of supply of service is outside India. Yes, the place of supply, that means let it be both the buyer and the seller are in India, but the place of supply is outside India, that is also called export of services. Or the payment for such service has been received by the supplier of service in convertible foreign exchange. Yes, that means if the supplier of the service, if he is receiving the amount, the value of the supply in convertible exchange, if he is receiving in foreign exchange, that will also be considered as export of services. Next, the supplier of services and the recipient of services are not merely establishments of distinct persons in the accordance with explanation of 1 in section 8. Yes, whatever the explanation given in 1 in section 8, if it is not accordance to that, then that will also be considered as export of services. So if the supplier is in India and if he is supplying the goods, if he is supplying the services, it is called export of services. If the recipient is outside India, then it is an export of services. If the place of supply of services is outside India, then it is also supply of services. And if the payment received by the supplier is in convertible foreign currency, then it is also will be considered as export of services under section 2 of IGST Act 2017. Next, again, section 2 also talks about import of goods. So what is this import of goods? Import of goods with its grammatical variants and cognate expressions means bringing goods into India from place outside India. That means if you are purchasing any goods from other country to India, that is called import of goods. You are in India and you ordered some goods. The goods were manufactured in USA. You are purchasing the goods from USA to India, that is called import of goods. That means you are purchasing the goods from other country, that is called import of goods. Import of goods means the supply of any services where the supplier of services is located outside India and the recipient of services is located in India and the place of supply of services is in India. Yes, if you are in India and you are receiving any services, that is also called import of services. If you are in India and if the supplier is in outside India, then it is also import of services. And the place of supply of services is in India. And if any outside person supplying the services to India, then it is also called supply of services, that is import of services. Next, again, section 2 is also explains about location of recipient of services. Location of recipient of services. So, where a supply is received at a place of business for which the registration has been obtained, the location of such place of business. Yes, the location of recipient of service, where the business place registered, that place will be considered as the location of the recipient of services. That means the receiver of the services. Next, where a supply is received at a place other than the business place for which registration has been obtained, a fixed establishment elsewhere, the location of such fixed establishment. Yes, where a supply is received at the place other than the place of business. If you are receiving the services other than the business place, then that place will be considered as the location of recipient of the services. Next, where a supply is received at more than one establishment, whether the place of business or fixed establishment, the location of the establishment most directly concerned with the recipient of the supply. If the services are received in multiple places, in different places, at that time we will be considering the establishment place as the location of the recipient. Next, in absence of such places, the location of the usual place of residence of the recipient. Yes, if there is no proper business place, if there is no proper establishment place of business, then we will be considering the place of or the location of the recipient, the location of the recipient, that is the residence location of the recipient, as the location of the recipient of services. So moving further, next is section 5. So section 5, it deals about levy and collection. So section 5 of IGST Act deals about levy and collection. So what is this levy and collection? Levy and collection of tax. So subject to the provisions of subsection 2, there shall be levied a tax called the Integrated Goods and Services Tax. Yes, they will be imposing the tax called Integrated Goods and Services Tax on all interstate supplies of goods and services or both. That means if any interstate supply is happening, whether interstate supply of goods or interstate supply of services, if that particular supply is happening, interstate supply, then this Integrated Goods and Services Tax will be applicable, except on the supply of alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Yes, except alcoholic supply for human consumption. If there is any alcoholic supply is happening, then that will not come under IGST Act. On the value of determined under section 15 of the Central Goods and Services Tax Act, and such rates not exceeding 40% as may be notified by the government on the recommendations of the council and collected in such manner as may be prescribed and shall be paid by the taxable person. Yes, so this levy and collection is purely relating to IGST, that is Integrated Goods and Services Tax Act. So Integrated Goods and Service Tax is applicable on interstate supplies, and the prescribed rate, which is not more than 40%. Okay, they can impose the tax at the prescribed rate, but not more than 40%. And IGST is not applicable on the alcohol transactions. Next one, provided that the integrated tax on goods imported into India shall be levied and collected in accordance with the provision of section 3 of the Customs Tariffs Act 1975, 51 of 1975, on the value as determined under the said act at the point when duties of customs are levied on the said goods under section 12 of the Customs Act 1962 of 52 of 1962. That means the integrated goods is not only applicable on interstate supplies, but it is also applicable on import of goods. If you are importing any goods from other country, or if you are importing any services from other country, then this IGST is applicable after imposing the customs duty as per the Customs Act 1962. Next one, section 6. So power to grant exemption from tax. So where the government is satisfied that it is necessary in the public interest so to do, it may, on the recommendations of the council by notifications, exempt generally, either absolutely or subject to such conditions as may be specified therein, goods or services or both of any specified description from the whole or any part of tax leviable thereon, which effect from such date as may be specified in such notifications. Yes, so the exemption, the power for exemption of tax is based upon the government decision. It is based upon the government decisions. If the government is ready to give the exemptions, yes, they can give the exemption to the public based upon whether it is necessary in the public interest or on the recommendations of the council. Yes, if the council is recommending the government to give exemption, then the government can give, or by notification. Yes, by giving the notification, they can give the exemption. They will be having the power to give the exemption. So mainly the government will be having the power to give exemption of tax on the public interest based upon the situations or based upon the economical condition. So where the government is satisfied that it is necessary in the public interest so to do, on the recommendations of the council by specific orders, in each case under circumstances of an exceptional nature to be stated in such order, exempt from payment of tax any goods or services or both on which tax is leviable. Yes, only in the special cases, only in particular circumstances, the government will be having the right to give exemption to the payment of tax. So based upon the condition, they'll be having the right, the power to grant exemption by paying tax. So section 6 again continued. So again what it says, the government may, if it considers necessary or expedient, so to do for the purpose of clarifying the scope or applicability of any notification issued under subsection of 1 or order issued under subsection 2, inserts an explanation in such notification or order as the case may be by notification at any time within 1 year of issue of the notification under the subsection 1 or orders under subsection 2, and every such explanation shall be have effect as if it had always been the part of the first such notification or order as the case may be. Yes, that means if the government is giving the tax exemption, then they are supposed to give the explanation with respect to subsection 1 and subsection 2. So on what basis, for what purpose they are giving the exemption, and why the exemption is supposed to be given to the public or to the taxpayers. The explanation should be given and the situation should be explained with respect to subsection 1 and subsection 2 of section 6. Next, section 7. So what section 7 talks about? It talks about interstate supply. That means the transaction happening between the states. So subject to the provision of section 10, supply of goods where the location of the supplier and the place of supply are in 2 different states. Yes, if the location of the supplier and the location of the recipients are in 2 different states, then it will be considered as interstate supply. And 2 different union territories. Yes, if the transaction is happening between 2 union territories, then again it will be considered as interstate supply. And a state and union territory. Yes, if the transaction is happening between a state and a union territory, again it will be called as interstate supply. Shall be treated as supply of goods in the courts of interstate trade or commerce. Yes, if the transaction is happening between 2 states or between 2 different union territories or between a union territory and a state, those transactions shall be treated as a supply of goods in the course of interstate trade or commerce. So interstate supply is explained under section 7. Next, section 8, it talks about intrastate supply. Obviously, you all already know what is intrastate supply, that is within the state. So subject to the provision of section 10, supply of goods where the location of supplier and the place of supply of goods are in the same state or same union territory shall be treated as intrastate supply. So if the location of the recipient and the supplier are in the same state or in the same union territory, then it will be called as intrastate supply. So provided that the following supply of goods shall not be treated as intrastate supply, namely, that means the following, the below conditions or circumstances are not called as intrastate. So which are those? The first one, supply of goods to or by special economic zone developer or special economic zone unit. So if you are supplying the goods to a special economic zone, special economic unit, then it will not be considered as intrastate supply even though the supplier and the recipient are in the same state. Next, goods imported into the territory of India till they cross the customs forfeitures of India. Yes, sometimes we are importing the goods. Until the custom authority release the goods, you can't determine the, the supply, which kind of supply is that. So until you receive the goods from the import officer, you can't determine the type of supply. Next, supplies made tourist referred to in section 15. Yes, any supply made to the tourist which is referred to section 15, that will also not be possible to determine whether it's intra or interstate supply. So section 8 talks about intrastate supply where the transaction is happening between districts, that means within the state. Next, section 8, it also again talks about subject to the provision of section 12, supply of services where the location of the supplier and the place of the supply services are in the same state or in the same union territory, treated as intrastate supply. That means with respect to services, the supply of services are done in the same state. If the receiver of the service and the supplier of the services are in the same state, then those kind of services will be treated as intrastate supplies. And provided that the intrastate supply of services shall not include supply of services to or a special economic zone developer or special economic zone unit. Yes, again in goods as well as in services, if any services are provided to a special economic zone or a special economic zone unit, then that will not be considered as intrastate supply of services. Next, section 9. Section 9 talks about supply in territorial waters. Yes, supply in territorial waters, that means border. So, notwithstanding anything contained in this act where the location of the suppliers is in the territorial waters, the location of such supplier, that means the location of the supplier, if it is in the territorial waters, the location of such supplier where the place of supply is in the territorial waters, the place of supply shall, for the purpose of this act, be deemed to be in the coastal state or union territory where the nearest point of the appropriate baseline is located. Yes, in case if the location of the supplier is in the territorial waters or location of such supplier or where the place of supply is in the territorial waters. If the place of supply is in the territorial water or the location of supplier is in the territorial water, at that point of time, the nearest coastal state or the nearest union territory will be considered as services or the place of supply of goods. So, section 9, it talks about supplies in territorial waters. So, with this, I am going to wind up the session. So, in the next upcoming session, I am going to come up with few more topics with respect to GST. Until then, thank you all. Have a nice day. Namaste.